Yeah, that's right. From the shores of the North Saskatchewan River, right here in slushy Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, all the way over to I think you're in California, right, Keri? This is Keri Kelli on the line.
That is right, my man, dude. Beautiful Orange County, California, dude. The OC. It's like about 75 degrees. I'm looking out my window right now. I can see the water. It's very nice, to be
Well,
honest. I'm sorry about that.
well, and I thought right now our 6 degree Celsius temperatures were kind of tropical, but you've got the real deal out there.
Yeah, it's. I love it, man. I've been in Orange County my whole life. I was very fortunate. My parents lived down here in Huntington Beach since I was a baby, and I've never left. Well, I lived in LA for a couple of years back
Yeah.
in the old days, and then I finally I got to my senses and I came back to Orange County. But yeah, I love it down here, man. Weather is awesome, man. If you haven't been down here, you should try to get down here.
Well, this is in the 1980s. You're talking about LA, like you were right involved in that scene, were you?
I lived in LA around like 90, 91, 92, and 93. So we were going up there. I played in another band when I was a kid. I was only like 15 and a half and 16 years old,
Wow.
around 87, 88. I was in a band. The band was kind of from there. They had like two guys lived in LA, and me and the other couple of guys lived down in Orange County. So we'd have to drive up there all the time. But I was in the thick of it as a little kid when you all those stories you hear about the Sunset Strip and all that crap, people were like, typically probably 20, 21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
I was out there like 16 years old, dude. It was pretty funny. But yeah, I lived in LA like 91, 2, 3, and then I came back to Orange County.
Yeah, well, now I've been talking a lot about this lately, it seems, but I mean, maybe slightly unfortunate timing for you with the onset of grunge right around that time. I mean, where was the scene at when you were in it? I mean, it must have been right in the tail end.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I had the old band I was in at that time in LA, I mean, yeah, it was kind of like a commercial, a regular kind of commercial rock band at the time. But when it got to around 93, I mean, we did our best. We were playing big shows. We usually play I think like every 3 months we pretty much play and, do the big show at the Roxy and stuff like that. And, which was great. But, I mean, I was so young back then as well. I mean, when I started the band, I was like 19. And when I was doing these shows, I was like 20, 21 years old. And,
Yeah.
you think you know everything, but you really don't. But then, of course, the music was changing during that period around 92, 93, and especially 94. And that was that pretty much as we know how the story goes from there,
Yeah. Did you consider making a move to Seattle and changing your sound?
No, I didn't. Like I said, after those few years in LA and we really gave it a good try, with the band, I just came back to Orange County and I kind of, started another band in Orange County at that time. So like 94-ish or 5, did that for a couple of years. And then all of a sudden I started getting some opportunities to be more of like a hired gun guy instead of a guy that was trying to form his own band and all that crap. And I go, wow, this is kind of cool. So you want me to come down and play with you? I don't have to do anything. Just learn the songs and play them right. And you're going to pay me? And like I said, at this time, I was like about 25 years old or something. I was like, this is like a change. I've never had this happen before. So,
right.
And then, then the outcome of that probably as well. If anybody knows my story, the Keri Kelli story.
Yeah. I'm sure it would make a pretty interesting book.
Yeah. It was I've had a lot of fun times, man. I've been very fortunate to do all the things that I've done and played with a lot of cool people, great people, various bands that are friggin' awesome. And here we are in 2019. I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And we have this new record coming out, this new, a new Revenge record with 3 other of my buddies. And and we have the Night Ranger. I've been playing with Night Ranger for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
a little more than 5 years actually, and still rolling, man, just like a shark, dude, just fast as a shark. Keep swimming.
Yeah. Well, now just thinking about the record that's coming out with a new Revenge. It's called Enemies and Lovers, coming out March 29th on Golden Robot Records. I mean, how do you, as a player, differentiate your own playing from the various projects you're in? Because I know Night Ranger's probably your meal ticket, right? But I mean, like, how do you kind of change gears project to project?
It's pretty simple, you know. I mean, I think my guitar playing, like say my lead guitar playing, is pretty much the same. I mean, it's funny. Sometimes I'll listen to some tapes, like, you know, from literally back in like these days I'm talking about, like the 90s.
Yeah, yeah.
And I literally sound exactly the same as I played back then. You know, I mean, yeah, of course I've learned some new licks or learned some other things, but I mean, I could tell my stuff when I hear it at any time, even from back then. But I think what you're getting at is, like, every project that I've been involved in, I was always a guy in the old days that had the 4-track recorder and the 8-track recorder and then the 16-track and nowadays Pro Tools and etc. So I was always kind of writing songs or trying to create. But, you know, when you're in a band kind of situation, or you're writing, when you're in the band and they want to do a new record, I mean, Alice Cooper, for instance, when I was working with Alice, and then he said, hey, we're going to do a new record. Do you have any songs? To get some songs together, your mindset is thinking of Alice Cooper. You know his sound. It's legendary, you know, very distinctive. You know his vocal style. So you kind of try to create things that kind of are in that vein. And then at that point, he can be he's the boss on if he wants to develop the idea or not. Same thing on this last Night Ranger record. You know, you want to try to create some things that are in a Night Ranger vein, which is what I did. And then Jack and I, and Brad as well, did 4 songs on this new record. And I submitted more than that, but Jack kind of picked out, like, hey, I like this one and I like that one. Let's work on these.
Yeah.
But with this record, I mean, I know I'm kind of long-winded on this.
No, go
I kind of just did anything I thought was cool. You know, I just wrote riffs and put little songs together that I thought were cool. And I usually do like 2 of them at a time, 2 or 3 of them at a time. I kind of put these little instrumental songs together, sometimes with some vocals or some melody ideas, and sometimes just music, who knows? Yeah. And I'd send them to Tim. So we sent them over to Tim Owens, and then he would kind of go through them and go, hey, you know, you sent me those 2 songs. The first one is really cool. The second one I'm not really liking. And then he'd kind of develop that song, for instance, and send it back to me. So this record in particular was literally just ideas that I had that I thought sounded cool for this, I guess, for whatever it was. It wasn't trying to be anything.
Yeah.
And then Tim kind of guided it a little bit with saying, hey, I like this one and I like that one. And then and that was it. Here we are.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should mention, you know, you've got Tim Ripper Owens on vocals, and of course you've got perhaps the greatest hired gun of all time on bass with Rudy Sarzo, and then you've also got James Kotak of Scorpions ilk on the drums. Now it sounds like the process started with you and Tim, and you know, you just because of your schedules, I would imagine you're not one of these bands that's all sitting in the same room together, right? Like that's where it begins. So then where do Rudy and James fit into this whole process, Keri?
It was pretty much, yeah. I mean, you're exactly right. As I kind of explained, I mean, I would do the little demos, send them to Tim. He would send the things back he liked. And then at that point, I would kind of, Tim's in Ohio, I'm out here in California, obviously. I would kind of develop the songs a little bit more because, you know, when you're kind of just writing a cool riff, guitar riff, and you put the drums down, you play a little bass on it just for a little demo, you're not making it full tilt boogie. Sometimes you might just spend an hour on it because you don't know if Tim's going to say, oh, that sucks, and I don't want to spend a 10-hour day making a master demo, you know? So once the song comes back from Tim, I kind of worked on them some more and really developed them some more. Sometimes James would come over and play drum. I have a drum set here at my house all mic'd up and everything. A pretty good home studio here.
Yeah.
So he'd come over and play some drums. You know, I initially played bass, obviously, on all this stuff. And then once we finally got all the songs kind of together, then Rudy actually just laid the bass down after the drums were cut and everything. So he played, you know, to the master drums, and that's how we did it. So yeah, but these days with everybody having home studios and things like that, I mean, it's so much simpler, you know, and I think it's cool. I mean, I dig the whole vibe of being in a room and you know, banging shit out and stuff, but I think it's so much more efficient these days to just be able to do it, you know, work on your own pace, and you could send the tracks back and forth. I mean, it's amazing what you could do these days, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know, I love Rudy's playing. It's so straightforward, and he's just able to lay a groove down, and his touch too. Like when you listen to his touch on the bass, you can just tell it's him. I mean, like where does your relationship with Rudy, you know, go back to, Keri? How long have you known him, and so on and so forth?
Well, I had met Rudy in the '90s, just like in passing in LA. I mean, you know, it wasn't like we were best friends, but just kind of here and there. And then I didn't see him for a few years, you know, when I started doing, playing these more quote unquote professional type gigs. When I think he came out when I played with Slash, and we talked for a bit, and that must have been around 2000-ish, I think. So we would just see each other in passing. So I've probably known him for 20 years approximately. And then I know with Alice in the middle 2000s, we would play here and there. I remember one time when I played with Vince as well. He was playing in Blue Oyster Cult, and they played with us, so we kind of got a chance to rap there. And then, like I said, we played a few times with Alice. They were opening up. So I mean, it's, you know, it's here and there. It's like a circuit of guys. Like you're like, oh hey dude, how are you? You know, how are you? I haven't seen you like for a year. Oh, just doing this, and you know, catch up real quick, and that was pretty much it.
It sounds like you've got a reasonably close relationship with Tim. You know, I would imagine that there's a little bit of history there too, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, again, I mean, I met Tim probably about not as long as Rudy or James, but I've known Tim for about 10 years or so, and I met him here in Orange County where I live. He was friends with some of my other buddies from an Orange County band called Lit, L-I-T. They're kind of like an alternative kind of rock band.
Right.
And then so I met him through those guys, and you know, we hang out. The Lit guys own a bar here in Orange County, so everybody goes there, especially at the NAMM show. It's close to where this big music show is. Yeah, Tim would always come out for that, and they'd have jams there and stuff. So yeah, so I've known Tim for about a decade now.
Wow, that's impressive. And I mean, again, like Tim has such an iconic voice, and he's worked on a wide range of projects over the years. I mean, you know, was that a conscious choice to go with Tim and Rudy and James, or was it just sort of a Magic 8-Ball type situation?
It was, well, I mean, you know, to be completely honest with you, kind of the whole idea of the band started with James and I. Yeah. And I'll tell the story very briefly if I can, and I draw it out. But like about 7 years ago or 8 years ago, we were doing a tour. It was Alice Cooper and the Scorpions, and we were in Russia. It was a long tour. It's like a month long. We did every place from the East Coast, you know, which is like Vladivostok, which you look out at the water and you can see Sapporo, Japan, all the way from there, Siberia, all the way over to the West Coast, which is St. Petersburg. You know, I've known James from the past anyway, and we were always hanging out, having a good time. A lot of off time, to be honest, on that tour. A lot of days off. And then we were like, hey, man, we should do something like, you know, on our off time and have a fun, cool project or whatever. The promoter from over there, who's been promoting in Russia for like 30 years, a great guy, does everybody, Green Day, Ozzy, obviously Alice, Scorpions, I mean, everybody. He goes, hey, if you guys put something together, you know, it's killer, dude, I'll bring you guys over. So we started thinking, we go, fuck, man, who should we get? And literally, I mean, I said, dude, well, Rudy, dude, we should see if Rudy's interested. And I said, Tim, you know, to James. I go, dude, Ripper's friggin' killer, dude. I mean, he's awesome. And dude, I swear to God, I literally just called him up and said, hey, we have an opportunity to go over, you know, we could do a couple of weeks in Russia with this promoter, blah, blah, blah. And Rudy goes, oh, I know. And yeah, I love him. I did shows with him with Dio. He's great. And yeah, let's do it. And at that time, we were just playing like covers of the bands that we were in, like, you know, the Priest, couple of Priest songs, couple of Scorpions, you know, Ozzy, Dallas, blah, blah, blah. And we had such a blast. We just developed it into that. But it was literally that simple. I mean, we didn't go like, hey, let's call this guy and let's call that guy or let's call this dude. James and I just said, hey, let's try to get Rudy and let's try to get Tim. Got back. I just gave them a call and they said, let's do it. And that was it.
So this is kind of like, you know, how Project Rock started.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. It is it. Yeah. So it just developed from like a jam band, you know, into us sending songs back and forth every month or two. Hey, here's a song. Here's an idea.
Right.
Until we finally had enough songs we were happy with. We actually recorded 12 masters. I think a couple of them are like bonus songs that are coming out in Japan or something
Sure.
like that. But, you know, we recorded like 20 something songs, like 25 songs. And then we whittled it down to like these 12, and then those are the masters they're coming out on the record.
Right. I was just thinking too now, I mean, obviously you went from, you know, and this is not to, you know, don't take this the wrong way, but you've gone from the sort of more generic Project Rock title to, you know, now calling yourself A New Revenge. I mean, what's the significance of the new name, and how'd you come up with it, and so on and so forth?
Well, again, it's pretty simple, you know. I mean, rock and roll, I don't try to overthink it, or most people probably shouldn't, at least in my opinion. I mean, rock and roll should be having fun with their buddies, playing some great music, you know, things that we grew up with, you know, art, you know, creating art, creating the songs, etc. But, yeah, I mean, when it was Project Rock, it literally, I mean, the name says it all. It was more of a project. We were just doing, you know, kind of cover songs of the bands we were been involved in and things like that. And then now that, like I said, after all this time, we finally had enough tunes to put an original record out. We figured it was time to come up with, you know, a name for this band and for this album. And then so we went on the name search, and then it was, you know, that was like a month or two of everybody sending, you know, funny names over back and forth, like Brown Bag, or, you know, 8 Ball, or whatever the damn names were. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then one day, I don't know how or why, I came up with A New Revenge. At first, I was going, New Revenge? That sounds cool. New Revenge, A New Revenge. I didn't know. So, and I just sent it over to the guys on email. I said, hey, I got this name. What do you guys think? And they just literally wrote back and they said, that's great. Let's do it. But I mean, we went back and forth for like a month or more. I don't know exactly how long, with everybody sending, you know, dummy names over. I mean, some of them were okay, but you know, you look back on them and you're like, what the hell is that? You know, I don't know. But you know, on band names,
yeah.
Let me tell you this. This is my theory. You know, everybody wants the raddest band name of all time. You know, but what is the raddest band name of all time? Who knows? Now, of course, we think of names like Black Sabbath or Led Zeppelin or whoever, even Motley Crue as being great names, or are they just great because, you know, we've heard them 30 million times and we just associate that name with those songs that you hear, you know, out of the radio on your record player. I mean, if I came to you, if me and you were going to start a rock band, and I go, dude, I got the ultimate name, dude, our band's going to be killer. And you go, okay, yeah, what is it? And I go, Weezer. You would probably like slap me. You know what I mean? But now, you know what I mean? Everybody says Weezer like it's it just rolls right off their tongue. Like no people associate that weirdo, interesting name with that band, and it just is what it is. So all things considered, I think A New Revenge is a very cool name, and I don't know how I came up with it, but I did, and the guys liked it, and we went with it.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, the other big news is you guys are signed to Golden Robot Records for this project.
Yeah.
And I mean, they are very, very quickly, you know, becoming a bit of a force in you know, melodic hard rock. You know, where's the connection there? Because I think there's a bit of a story. You know, the fellow was head of Roadrunner Records or something at one point.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it goes back a long time. So the guy that we kind of got the deal from, or you know, approached us, his name's Derek Schulman. He's been in the industry for forever. Guy is a legend in the industry. I mean, he's worked with AC/DC back when they got Brian in the band, Bon Jovi. I mean, tons of people. And then, of course, then he was like the vice president or whatever, or the president of Roadrunner during the developmental part. You know, I think the Nickelback time and the Slipknot and all that. And then the last, I think, like 5 years, I don't know exactly the timeline, but he was like the president or something of the Frontiers Records, but the North American division.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, I don't know exactly, but about a year ago, he partnered with another guy in Australia to start this new label. And one day he just called me and said, "Hey, what's going on?" And I go, "Oh, well, hey, we're finishing this record, or we got this record. It's basically done, or it is done. We just need to get it mastered and stuff." And he goes, "Oh, send it over to me." And I did. And he said, "Let's do something with this." And I said, "Okay, great." Or we said, "Okay, great." And just to bring this story full circle, besides Derek being, a legend in the industry, how I first met him and how James first met him is because he signed Kingdom Come.
Oh, wow.
James' first band back in 80, whatever that was, 88 or 89, whatever year that was.
Yeah.
So he signed Kingdom Come. So that's how the whole story ties together.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm just going through some of my notes here, and I see that one of the first ever live shows you saw just when you were a young fellow was Kiss. Is this like the non-makeup era Kiss that we're talking about here?
That Kiss was actually the second show that I witnessed, and it's funny, I've seen Kiss twice in the last 3 weeks by chance.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it just happened to be. But great guys, and I think this show they're doing this year is awesome. But yeah, it was my second concert. The first concert I witnessed was December 21st, 1977. I was 6 years old, and my mom took me to see Queen at the Forum here in Los Angeles. And I was like a little kid. I didn't know what the hell was going on. You know what I mean? You're 6 years old. You're like looking around. You're at the Forum. There's like, 19,000 people there, and the band's jamming. I'm like, this is incredible.
Yeah.
So so that was great. And then 2 years later, it was at the end of, actually, I guess it was about a year later, because at the end of 79, I think it was November 79, Kiss came. And so, of course, we had to go see those guys because they were superheroes, So, yeah, it was the Kiss Dynasty Tour.
Right, right.
And it was awesome. Like I said, you're a little kid like that. You don't really understand everything when you're 6, 7, 8 years old. But it was it really left a mark, man. I got to tell you that.
Well, yeah, I think now from what I've read about that tour, the Dynasty Tour, it was a little bit more kid friendly, and there was sort of a bit of a transitional era for the band, and with the lunch kits and the Kiss action figures and all of the marketing and stuff. I mean, is that sort of how they landed on your radar when you were so young?
I guess probably. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that's probably, just the imaging or like you said, I mean, I still have a lot of that stuff. I mean, I have like a Paul Stanley costume and like you said, the lunchbox and all that crap. And when you're a little kid, you don't really know, oh, this is the music business, but you go, wow, look at this. These guys are like I said, like superheroes or something,
Yeah.
And we did have the records, I had the records too, but still, I mean, when you're that young, you don't really understand, fucking Love Gun, you know what I mean? but we liked the whole, kid, I liked the whole spectacle of it. So we went to see the concert, and it was over the top, man. And from that time on, I was always kind of into music. My parents were into music. They played music at the house all the time, all day and night, like stuff like Rolling Stones, Johnny Winter, ZZ Top, Rolling Stones mainly. They loved the Stones. So I mean, it was always musical, but I just really wanted to try to do something like that, at an early age. And then, so that kind of led me on the path.
It's funny that you'd mentioned Love Gun, because just the other day I was having a conversation with my kids about AC/DC, and I was like, what's your favorite AC/DC song? And they said it was Touch Too Much.
Yeah, there you go.
And
shows you, Yeah, you don't know what's going on. They just go, wow, this is a cool song. You don't know what's going on, or the beat, the rhythm is cool. You know what I mean?
Well, it's the hook in the chorus that they really like. It's the same thing with the Accept song, Balls to the Wall. They like that one too.
Yeah, there you go. Good. They sound like they have good taste. I love it.
Well, I try for those odd, parenting wins every now and again. I heard you were also, your early guitar training was, you were trained by a jazz fusion guitarist. So, I mean, do you have some, are you a closeted jazz fusion fan? Like, do you occasionally whip out the Pat Metheny or Mahavishnu John McLaughlin records and give them a spin?
Oh, dude, all the time. Are you kidding me, dude? Dude, John McLaughlin is the Lord, man. No, I mean, I have all those records. I have all the CDs and everything. Yeah, I mean, I got really immersed in that. I mean, I still am. I mean, I'm not turning to it all the time now, but when I was a kid, really kind of coming up and trying to learn, I got into all that. I mean, all the Alan Holdsworth. I have the whole catalog, all the Al Di Meola stuff. The return, before Al Di Meola had the Return to Forever.
Right.
I mean, like you said, I mean, Metheny, I mean, Larry Carlton, Room 335, older guitar players, Django Reinhardt, and, I mean, over and over and over. But yeah, no, I was really, in the 80s there when I was, really working on guitar playing and really doing it and playing, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, those stories you heard back in, probably people back then. I was totally into jazz fusion stuff.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I suppose it's this way with any genre. I mean, you hear stories of, young Dimebag Darrell shredding out the Eddie Van Halen, but I mean, with jazz, you almost have to literally lock yourself in a room and, you're just listening to jazz and all of the different players within the particular style that you want to learn from, and if you do that, eventually those little licks and ways of playing and kind of end up working their way into your fingers.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all of those guitar players, obviously we just mentioned some of the top guitar players in history. A lot of times, they get recognition in their jazz world or fusion world or whatever it may be. But, I mean, that's not, I love the rock. That was the thing. But I knew, I have music appreciation. Like I said, that first little guitar teacher I had really helped me on that, knowing that these players are great. They're not up there jumping around like Kiss or like jumping off fucking amps like Eddie Van Halen. But their playing is amazing. I mean, Eddie is a lord, but Alan Holdsworth, bless his soul, and he loved Alan Holdsworth, especially around that time when they did Fair Warning and stuff like that. And he was trying to hang out with Alan and stuff. Yeah. I mean, he plays a couple of Alan Holdsworth reminiscent licks, Eddie does, and everybody's mind was blown. I mean, it was like, but he's not even, it wasn't really that big of a deal. It's like Alan Holdsworth, you put on 1 minute of Road Games or the IOU record, and your head is really spinning off. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? So, but I get it. I mean, rock and roll guitar playing is a different thing than if you're playing jazz fusion or classical guitar and things like that. But, I try to have appreciation. That's really it, and know a lot of people have blinders on, especially in rock or hard rock or metal and things like that. But, I just try to appreciate all types of music.
I do notice with your solos, at least on this new record, Enemies and Lovers, that I mean your playing is very consonant. So I mean it just made me wonder if the consonants, like playing to the changes, is kind of something that you picked up just from the jazz training.
Yeah, probably. I mean nowadays, you play over the chord changes. You play with the changes. A lot of people, if you're playing a solo that's in, whatever it may be, E minor, for instance, even though your passing chords are still moving within that structure, a lot of people just will still play in the box or play in E minor, but you could play over each chord change as well, which is interesting. I don't really think about it too much anymore, to be honest with you. I mean, I just kind of play, you got to know the chords or everything you're playing over. But I think knowing the theory that I got, and I'm not as fluent even as I was back in the old days when you're playing 6, 7, 8 hours a day. But just to have the knowledge, I think, really helped me along in my whole career. Because a lot of people, especially in rock or commercial rock, I think they didn't really develop a lot of those chops. And they're not necessary all the time either. But I think that they've really helped me in what I've done the last 25 years or whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, you know, I wouldn't argue with that. The Motley Crue movie, of course, The Dirt, coming up, and you know, I would be a fool if I didn't mention that you did a little bit of you know, playing for Vince. I mean, have you seen the movie in an advanced screening yet, or you know, where are you going to be when it actually drops?
You know, I have not witnessed any bit of it really. I did see that little trailer. They have that 1-minute trailer.
Yeah.
That's out, but that's all I know about it. You know, I know it's coming out the end of the month or maybe next week or week after. And, you know, I have Netflix here. It's all actually, we have at the house. We don't have cable or anything like that. We just roll like the Netflix on our Amazon stick. But, so yeah, we're going to watch it. I think it's going to be very interesting. I've never read the book, to be honest with you. Vince is a great guy. You know, I've hung out with those guys before, you know, some of the other guys here and there, but, I had a blast playing with Vince, and I can just imagine, like I said, I've heard the stories about the book when it came out, but I've never read it. So I think I'm going to be surprised one way or another when we watch the movie, you know. But I think the story of Motley is awesome, man. I mean, once again, when I was a kid, I used to go see those guys play, you know, in the clubs, and I've seen them at Santa Monica Civic, and I've seen them, one of the first shows they did, they opened up for Kiss at Irvine Meadows over here. And so I've watched them like at all levels. And like I said, especially when you're that young, I mean, at that time, again, I was only like 11, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
It was like, whoa, these guys are incredible. It's like Kiss, but heavier, like, you know, more dark and stuff, you know? So I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, I want to check it out.
Yeah, the book does not hold back. So I mean, I'm curious to see how much they were actually able to, you know, weave into the story while keeping it. You know, I mean, I'm curious to know like how far they'll go in telling the story. There's only really, like, I've read a lot of rock books in the past. There's only one book that actually might one up The Dirt, and that's a book by the punk band NOFX called The Hepatitis Bathtub. I think that one is actually even more hardcore than The Dirt. But you know, what do I know? I'm just some
I can, dude, your boy, anytime you involve Fat Mike in there, you know something's going to go wrong.
Oh yeah, some of the stuff you're just like, oh my God, they actually did that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. How about, how are you loving his little side, the Cokie the Clown, dude? You ever get into that?
You know, I had the opportunity of interviewing Mike twice, and I have read a lot about the Cokie the Clown routine, but I don't know if the subject actually ever came up in either interview. I mean, I felt fortunate enough that there was a time period there with NOFX right around when the book came out that they were actually doing press because they kind of stopped for the longest time. Yeah.
No, I actually I know that they are up to their you know, up to their ways or whatever, but I actually really like the band. And you know, once again, I mean, that's what you think, oh, that guy from Night Ranger like NOFX. Well, yeah, I think they fucking kick ass. I like Bad Religion and Social Distortion, you know. I mean, I have a couple guitars that I bought from Mike Ness, you know, real Social Distortion, gold top Les Pauls, you know, because, you know, they're here in Orange County and all that. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I love the NOFX, man. But, yeah, you don't know what's going to happen, man, when you're around those guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, listen, Keri, it's been awesome just chatting with you. I guess I should plug the record one more time. The band is called The New Revenge, of course, featuring Tim Ripper Owens, Keri, the man I'm talking to right now on guitar, Rudy Sarzo, the legendary Rudy Sarzo on bass, and of course James Kotak of Scorpions fame on drums, and like you mentioned before, of Kingdom Come as well. The record's called Enemies and Lovers, coming out March 29th on Golden Robot Records, man. It's been great talking with you today, Keri. Just a real treat, real pleasure for me.
Cool. Thank you, Jack, man. Be safe up there. Try to stay warm, and I'm going to definitely stay warm here in Orange County.
No doubt. Well, you have a good day, sir. Thank you very much for your time.
Take it easy, my man. Bye-bye.
Bye.